Welcome to the Cryptosphere. This is Cryptogenic coming at you. Today is Saturday, June 11th at 8:24 a.m. here in hot Northern California. In this video today, we are going to be taking a look at the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. The 4-year Bitcoin cycle. I've received multiple questions about this, and I've meant to address it for some time. I finally decided that this morning is the time to address it, and actually I think it's a perfect time considering where the market is right now to address the question of Bitcoin's 4-year cycle. And, I've been talking about the breakout. I've been talking about seeing the altcoin market breaking out 50% between now and September 1st. I have not given projections maybe I have given some projections for where Bitcoin will be by September 1st. We're going to revisit those today in the context of the question, if Bitcoin is in a 4-year cycle, then that should mean the next all-time high should come in 2025. So why would I expect us to break our last all-time high before 2025, which I do. But I'll show you the conditions under which we will break that all-time high and the conditions under which possibly we will not. So it can always go one way or another. So we're going to look at both scenarios. First thing, what I'd like to do here, actually, I'm going to get rid of this line here. I want to go back, first of all, the evidence for the 4-year cycle. Basically, we had an all-time high here in December of 2013. 4 years later, we had an all-time high here in December of 2017, right? So that's 4 years. And if we follow that cycle, then we should expect another all-time high over here in 2021, which is what we did, right? Over here, November 2021. So almost to the month, just about. This one was a month early. But we had 4 years, every 4 years we made an all-time high, okay? Now, this is the question for me. To me, it's all about the RSI. I'm just going to focus in here on the RSI. Matter of fact, let me get rid of some of these lines because I don't want to complicate this. This is very simple. For me, the story of technical analysis, the story that technical analysis tells is the story of the relationship between the all-time high, between the RSI and the price, all right? So if we go over here to this high, this was the all-time high in 2013, December 2013. We start with the top out in the RSI, and it took the RSI 421 days to get to the bottom from that all-time high. 421 days to get to the bottom. 420 days. Okay? And during that time, Bitcoin broke down a total of 87.5%, right? So Bitcoin lost basically 87% in 420 days. Now, if we come over to this all-time high here in 2017, November 2017, to the bottom here was about 84%. It took 371 days, just confirming it with the RSI. From the top of the RSI to the bottom here, 371 days. All right. Now, let's look at this cycle here. First of all, the RSI tops out early, and we have massive bearish divergence as the price continues to go up, but the RSI goes down. How long has it been? From there, it's been 525 days. So from the RSI moving from the severely overbought position down to the oversold position took 371 days. That is, from the top of the RSI to the bottom of the RSI here took 371 days. From the top of the RSI here to the bottom of the RSI here took 420 days. Well, in our current cycle, the RSI has taken 525 days to get to the bottom. All right. So already we're seeing that this cycle is operating differently from the last two cycles. Secondly, in the last two cycles, the top out in the RSI in the first cycle was concurrent with the top out in the price. You don't see bearish divergence on this chart. Well, slight bearish divergence because we made a slightly lower high here. So from here to here is a higher high. From here to here is a lower high. But you have this top out in the RSI, and then boom, 420 days to the bottom. Here, there's no bearish divergence at all. This is the highest high in the RSI It's slightly higher than these other peaks, and then it just all crashes down to the bottom. And it takes 327 days. All right? So we're already 520 days in. So if you want to talk about the cycle, for all intents and purposes, we've bottomed out in the RSI. There's a good chance that we've bottomed out in the RSI. And matter of fact, we've taken longer to get to the bottom than we have in the previous cycles. Now, here's the anomaly. If we take the tippy top to the bottom, that's only 63%. So these last two times we lost 84%. This time we only lost 63%. All right? These are data points. We're going to put this together. Now, here's what I want to show you. We'll come back to this, but here's what I want to show you right now. What happens when the RSI hits the bottom and it basically, once it gets to the oversold position, it's going to move back to the overbought position. Now, this point here is not the top of the market. It's not the end of the cycle. It's just one leg up. Basically, what happens is the RSI goes from the oversold position to the overbought position and then pulls back to the middle of the range, back to the overbought, pulls back to the middle of the range, back to the overbought, pulls back to the middle of the range, back to the overbought, pulls back. So basically, this is what a bull run looks like in the RSI. The RSI tops out, then has to come back into the range and calm down for a while. In the meantime, Bitcoin pulls back. Then it pushes back to the top, has to calm down, back to the top, has to calm down, back to the top, has to calm down, until finally it tops out, and it's going to make its move back to the bottom of the range. This took 518 days to make it to the top the first time in this particular cycle. And during that 518 days, Bitcoin makes 407%. Within this 4-year cycle, the 4-year cycle's not over, but Bitcoin still does 407% from the bottom. We haven't broken our all-time high yet, right? Now watch this. It's going to bottom out here and get to the top here is going to be only another 140 days. So from this low here to this high, to this high here is 137%. That's right at the previous all-time high. So getting back to that all-time high and breaking above it, really. Let's use the bottom of this range. It took 804 days to reestablish the all-time high. And, 1,190 days to break it. 1,100 days to reestablish it. All right. Now let's move over here. I'm getting somewhere. I'm sorry, it seems a bit disjointed, but I'm actually getting somewhere. From the bottom of the RSI here to this top took 210 days. And during that 210 days, Bitcoin did 364%. Okay? So really, this is all we need to look at right now. Number one, we make a move to the bottom that takes about 400 days. And then the RSI tops out one time, which takes another 500 days here. And during that time, Bitcoin makes 400%. Now come to cycle 2. It takes us 371 days to get to the bottom. And then the RSI makes its way back to the top, which takes 210 days. During that 210 days, Bitcoin makes 364%. All right? Now, we spent 525 days going to the bottom. What has happened in both cycles when we get to the bottom is that here 500 days and here 200 days, Bitcoin makes a multi-100% rally. Now, if we simply meet in the middle of these two, you're talking 350 days, And this is 400%. This is 365%. If we meet in the middle of that, that's, say, 380%. Then what we would expect is from the bottom, within, say, 350 days, we would expect something like this. 118,000. Something of that nature. And maybe the percentage is not right, but the point I'm making is, is it going to be this amount of days, and is it going to be this a percentage of move up? I don't know, honestly. This is not, there's no way to accurately project this. But what I can say, number one, is that if we have bottomed out in the RSI, we should expect within the next 200 to 300 days a march upward that should be multiple hundreds of percentage points. That's not the same thing as the end of the cycle. The end of the cycle, yes, in 2025, we're going to see a major new all-time high. But if you look at this, it did not take 4 years for Bitcoin to break its previous all-time high here. It took less than 3 years here. If you look at this, so from here to the point where we actually broke the all-time high was 1,100 days. And from here to the point where we actually broke the all-time high was, what am I looking at? Yep, about 1,100 days. So in both scenarios, it took us about 1,100 days to break our previous all-time high. Here's the difference here. We've only come down 63%. I'm going to say this, and I don't like saying it because I'm the hopium guy. But I have to say it. If we are at the bottom, I expect within the next 200 to 300 days, I expect Bitcoin to do minimum 200 to 300% in the next 200 to 300 days. If Bitcoin does 200 to 300% in the next 200 to 300 days, we're going to see the altcoin market explode, right? I think Bitcoin dominance is going to drop. But there's a possibility that this cycle is not done yet. And that possibility is we dropped 83% in both of the last two cycles. This cycle, we've only been down 62%. What if we have to drop 83% before we're even at the bottom of this cycle? That would take us down to about $11,000. I have to say that that's a possibility, folks. The one mitigating factor for me is that the RSI is already so severely oversold. I mean, this would take the RSI down to an unprecedented low. And so I just don't see enough room in the RSI for us to drop another, from where we are, another 60%. So I don't expect this to happen. But I do think that the RSI, no. I think for all intents and purposes, I think the RSI is bottoming out. I think there's a good chance that the RSI is bottoming out. Could it go lower? It absolutely could go lower. Here's what I would expect if it does go lower. I would expect a touch of this trend line and then a bounce. Because on the macro, if you zoom out on Bitcoin on the weekly chart in the RSI, we're making higher lows and we're also making higher highs. Which means that from a macro perspective, All we've done is bounce around in this range, in this trend, really. And this goes all the way back to January of 2015. So I would expect maybe a touch of this line. And if we get a touch of this line, 25,000 maybe. But this cycle is different. I must say, this cycle is different. If you look at the RSI and the price, you're not seeing the same types of movements in this cycle that we've seen in the previous cycles. Because if you just look at the RSI from the top to the bottom, 371 days. And this one, from the top to the bottom, 518 days. This one, from the top to the bottom, 427 days. So this cycle has already, it's lengthened. It's taken longer than the previous cycles, right? And so what if we have a lengthened march up? What if we are close to the bottom, but we've got a lengthened march up? If that's the case, we could actually go higher than we've gone in previous cycles quicker. But we'll see. We'll see. It's just a perspective, folks. But I think there's a good chance we're either at the bottom or very close to the bottom, and that we are going to see a multiple 100% move within the next 200 to 300 days, which means, and we've seen, this is something that we've seen in every cycle. What I mean is, in every cycle, you don't have to wait 4 years for the cycle to complete to see Bitcoin make a move, right? In every cycle, Bitcoin has made early in the cycle. Once you finish bottoming out, you see in a short amount of time, Bitcoin making multiple 100% moves. So when I talk about Bitcoin making multiple 100% moves, you don't have to wait till 2025 for that. In 2025, we should see it top out. But where will that be? You know, that could be up in the 300,000 range, right? That should take another 3 years or so. But to get to 118,000, we could see that in the next 200 days. All right, folks, this is not trading advice. This is not financial advice. It's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. Thank you so much for watching. Do me a favor, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. This video is brought to you by the members of my Patreon community at patreon.com/cryptogenic. They make all of this possible. If you're interested, check it out. And above all else, make it your aim to sleep in peace every night, wake in joy every morning, and walk in love every day. This is Cryptogenic, signing out.